cutting room floor. We get a little bit of more in-depth information from the sermon last week. We started a little mini-series on I am N, the Arabic letter Nun, which extremists several years ago in Iraq and Syria started marking the doors of believers, Christian believers, to identify them so that they could thus in turn persecute them. So that started a little series about how do we respond as Christians and believers to those who are persecuted for their faith, and led into a discussion last Sunday about even those that are around us who can't speak up for themselves. How do we help everybody from the mentally challenged to widows and orphans and such? And so I have my friend Dave Burkham here, who is speaking at Sunnyside's men's retreat up here at Quaker Ridge in near Woodland Park, Colorado. We're having a great weekend so far, but I thought I'd just pick your brain, Dave, in ministry and in maybe in missions, because I know you've got some family involved in missions helping in this area. If there's one or two things that you would say to the church, this is what we need to do in order to be the voice, to be obedient to the scriptures that says to seek justice and to speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. Give me a couple of nuggets. What would you say we should be doing?
Well, first of all, it's such an overwhelming issue. I mean, I think if you ask all of us, should we do something? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And are we doing something? Maybe we are doing some things, but we know there's so much to do. So it's kind of hard to give a couple nuggets.
Right.
But I think it's something we struggle with. Well, I know we struggle with it in our church, and I think it's one thing. The first thing you tend to do, I don't know how it is at your church, but you find people who are already doing it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just like anything else, if you don't know much about it, find somebody who's doing it, learn from them, partner with them. I think that's a good starting place. I think secondly, plan for it to take time.
Yeah.
Because the best kind of help we can give is probably going to be relational,
right?
Where not just a project, but you can start doing something and say, we have a heart for this group or we want to do that, but we don't really have any connections with
right.
some of those. So look for the natural connections that are already there for you. Do you have part of a population that's neglected in your church? Just maybe start with the natural connection there and build on that, but also then be in it for the long haul, because when someone is marginalized, just building the relationship is going to take time, and figuring out what the problem is going to take time, and then you're going to, after you do all that, then you have to figure out what's our part.
Right.
And so it's very complicated from starting from ground zero. Do you guys do a lot already? Or?
Well, we try. We help with those who have been involved in sex trafficking.
Okay.
So we try to reach out to those people. We have benevolent ministries that help the homeless, the poor in our community. But again, it's such an overwhelming task.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you get done with one project, it seems like there's another one to do, and you don't want to make it like it's something that you check off your list. Okay, I help some homeless people.
Right.
I want to build a culture within our congregation of like you said, having a heart for those who are neglected. And I guess we just have to keep teaching, to keep sharing God's heart, keep showing people Jesus' heart for those people, and just pray that rubs out on us, so that we don't ever forget them.
I think that when you don't know exactly what to do, probably creating a plan of here's what we're going to do is not as good as saying here's where we start.
Right.
Because I'm sure you've already found that, like in our church, we get involved with sex trafficking awareness,
right.
And then we find out what's happening nearby, who's doing things, how can we partner. And then you get in a little ways, you go, well, here's a whole thing that isn't being done.
Right. Isn't being addressed at all.
And maybe that's a place we could help or expand. Or like for instance, we're out in Minnesota, so we've connected with county-wide and local food pantry
Right.
type operations, and figuring out what are they doing or not doing, how can we get involved. And if you just get, sometimes it's some volunteers and then some programs, and then our church becomes a base
Right.
for a distribution center. And I think you probably don't come in from the outside with a master plan.
Right.
You probably come in and say, we're willing, we're available, show us what needs to be done, how do we get started, and then let it grow from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Just find some place to start,
Yeah.
get involved, and see what the Lord does with that.
Yeah. Available and willing and interested, caring,
And again, not having something always in front of us to never forget those who are neglected,
Yeah, that's good.
those who are
Reminder.
marginalized. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me out this weekend.
You bet.